Not sure why that happened. That was kind of weird. But here we are, live again. Hi, everyone. My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila, which, if you're watching this live, you are watching it on Sassy Seer Sheila. If you are watching this on New Light Streaming Love, you are watching the replay. Let me get us over here to pull up the chat. Oh, I'd like to be able to do that. Will I be able to? What is going on here? Bear with me, y'all. For some reason, there we go. Can I? Thank you. Okay, so little bit of an update. I've not been present on the channel this week, really at all. I have a couple of videos that were recorded before Monday. On Tuesday, my housemate had to be readmitted to the hospital. And with everything that's been going on with her and seeing how things have been going with the medical industry, this really started with my sister when she had a stroke a couple months ago. And the level of presence for beings in that industry is not very much. I'm going to be honest with you. In my view, and especially with older folks at this juncture, for me personally, I don't want my housemate, my sister, anyone really, to be in the hospital without an advocate present at all times. Because, I spent a lot of time in the hospital. In the early 2000s, I was there in the hospital at one point for several months at a stretch. And I was alone most of the time. But I also was not present. I didn't know a lot of the things that I know now. And the level of not paying attention to what is happening to the beings with whom they are charged with caring for is astounding to me. And when one is not well, it's very overwhelming. They come in at all hours. Oh, Jennifer Brown, I'm so happy to see you, my love. Quinn J, so wonderful to see you both. But the level of how all of that happens and the way they treat a person who is there, an advocate really needs to be present, one that has been given permission by the patient to be present and listen to everything that is said and hopefully knows a little something about the medical industry. Because I'm watching, okay, so I know, and so does Lisa, because she was trained as a medical technician and realized that she didn't want to be in that as a job. And she was trained that when you put on a blood pressure cuff, the little thing that pumps it up has to be in line with the artery right here. I can't tell you every single being that took her blood pressure did not pay attention to where that thing was. They were taking her blood pressure with that thing hanging off of this part of her arm, this part of her arm, not right here where it needed to be. So if you're not even getting an accurate blood pressure, just that alone as a witness to what I was seeing in the hospital. So I was with her from the time we went to the emergency room through admission. I never left. I went prepared with changes of clothes, something to eat, something to drink. I knew what I was possibly in for, and I never left her side. I never left her room. And so that's where I've been. Luckily, we were able to catch this instance in enough time. It was another bleed, and it didn't happen. She didn't have to have a blood transfusion. So this week she will be meeting with the naturopath that will hopefully, Lisa has been diagnosed. For those of you who, Jennifer, I know you're probably unaware, Quinn J, I know you guys know who Lisa is. So I will just say that she has now received a diagnosis from the medical industry of 4 overlapping autoimmune situations. She will be coming to have a conscious conversation with me at some point. She has said that she knows she is going to do that. It's just exactly when. And we're nearing that time. She's told me just recently when that will be, because there are very specific reasons this has happened. She's had some very specific experiences to share with all of us in regards to the why and how and what it is actually doing. Good morning, David. I was hoping you would join us. So look forward to that. As to exactly when, I cannot say to you right now. She is home, but like I said, I wouldn't be here if she wasn't home. I would still be in the hospital. And I would try to do a live from there, but there's really not enough bandwidth to be able to do all of that, to even attempt it. I got a hit once while I was there that could be something I could try to do, but it didn't feel quite right. There will be more of the Jason Gray writings. I've already begun this morning recording again, and I cannot unsee the order in which I'm guided to record. I am not recording his writings in the order in which they've appeared, because first of all, I can't keep up with him. He's just way too prolific, and his writings are having a huge effect on me personally. And I don't read his writings ahead of time. I know when I see the title, if it's something that I am to record, and I save it. And then when I get ready to record, I go through them and I get a hit as to which ones, I'm supposed to record this. I'll stop and record it. Then I'll go back through again. Same thing. So there are 4 that I recorded prior to the hospitalization of Lisa that will be released first. And I am guided to release all of these in the order in which that I've recorded them. I'm not quite clear why that is. However, there you go. Um, I've recorded 2 so far this morning, and I cannot unsee both of those either. As to, I still am not clear as to the why, but it's almost as though I know I'm being shown something very specific for my internal growth. And I want to say to each of you, only move towards that which draws you, because for me, that's how this is working. By getting, it's all a matter of focus and attention. And where I place that focus and attention, and how I do that has helped me direct me back into me. It is absolutely going to be different for each one of us. And I now understand that on a level I've never understood that before. And the reason that is because of your individual experiences. Your own programming and conditioning has been completely different than my programming and conditioning, just based on our childhood raisings alone, much less what we have been taught or thought was real on the outside. That shapes our perspectives. And each being's perspective is quite different, and it's meant to be. We are each very unique in that respect. This is why, for me, I know now there is no one way. I've said that I don't know how many times, but I now really understand that on a level I cannot communicate enough. Each one of us will understand things in a different way. And we cannot hold each other feet to the fire because you don't get it. I'm trying to show you something and you don't get it, because I'm telling you, that was me. And to some degree, it still is. I see that in me. Each of us will come to it in our own timing. We're not late. We're not wrong. There's no wrong way to do this. Don't let anybody try to tell you that there is. If you are focusing on you and getting into you and paying attention to you, you don't, I could label it a mistake if I have to. Based on who? Based on what? Based on what somebody else has said that this is the way to do this? Because that's the only way that I would think it's a mistake, is based on somebody else's assumptions of how this is all supposed to go down. But what if on some level you are in charge of how you perceive everything? Because I really do feel like that is the way this is working. And I feel like once we really, and here's the really wild thing. I've been saying some of these things for a long time. Lisa and I had this discussion last night, briefly. These things swirl around, right? and we know them enough to say them. Embodying them is quite the different story. And so, and I'm harder on myself than I am on anybody else. Trust me. That's why I think people think I'm such a hard ass because, well, I have been a hard ass. You damn Skippy, I have been. And I'm hardest on me. And I now see that so very clearly. So at any rate, I just wanted to share it with you guys that is what has been going on. And if you, I don't know, I think all of this happens to each of us for reasons that we may not see in the moment. I'm speaking on what's going on for Lisa. I'm speaking on what happened with myself. May not see it, may not really understand it in the moment. But I got to tell you, even with all the pain, all the health issues, I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change not one thing. And trust me, I have not had an easy life. No. Been on my own since I'm less than 14, really, because my mom just was not present. The oldest of three, I was mom to my brother and sister and held accountable for things I should never have been held accountable for. However, it shaped me also in ways that I'm very grateful for. Being poor all my life has shaped me in ways that I am one of the most resourceful people you will ever meet. And I see that now as having being a result of that. There's always more than one way to see something, to do something, to come up with something. And it's just, it offers such a huge perspective shift, a perception shift. And I've been telling myself these things all my life. I've said before, there was in my very first corporate position, I was asked to contribute to the company newsletter. And I wrote an article about perception. Now, it's very unfortunate I didn't save that. I wish I had, because OMG, I would love to see what I wrote. Let's see, that was in 1990. So I was 29. I would love to read what 29-year-old me, nowhere near to waking up to the truth of who we are. But I would love to be able to read that now. And so I have reached out to the only person that I know of that may by some chance happen to have saved a copy of that, because he also contributed to that first newsletter. But he and I are not friends on Facebook, and I don't think that we were, and now we're not. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. But also, I sent him a private message, and he hasn't seen it. So I don't know that I'll be able to find that. But if there's anyone who happens to find um, these recordings and happens to see this and worked for Passport International in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, if you happen to have an edition of the very first company newsletter for that, because see, that company is no longer in business. And I doubt very seriously, unless you had a reason to hold on to it, that anybody would have a copy of it. So that's really unfortunate, but I would love to. I think that would be so cool to finally hear what I made up, because it really is very interesting to me how I've known on some level of me all along that perspective and perception of perspective um, is the most defining characteristic of all of being an individuated, unique portion of the all that is. And really grokking that has for me been the most important factor to my finally relaxing into myself and realizing that each one of us, bar none, have a totally unique perspective on everything. Every single thing. And realizing that has made my life a lot less lonely, because I'll be honest with you, for the longest time, I yearned so bad for somebody, anybody, to understand anything about me. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know if anyone could ever really know all of me except me. I never took the time to get to know all of me either. So how would I ever expect anyone out there to understand when even I didn't understand me? And still, to a very large degree, don't totally grok me. I hope that made sense, because it certainly has changed the way I feel about everything. And coming to that realization for myself, I don't know, it's just a whole different perspective. It offers an entirely different way of moving through life. A much more joyous way, if you get my meaning. So this is something that normally would have triggered me in my past, I won't say life, but my past existence, because of my resistance to the word prayer. It automatically evoked religion. But this surrender, from the surrender deck, we have surrender to prayer. And now I see prayer in an entirely different light. Give yourself over completely to prayer. When you pray from your heart, you will be heard throughout the universe, and answers and support will arrive. And I now see that as surrendering myself to the all that is me. And I see that in a completely different perspective than I ever did before. It's more of a reverence type of contemplative, I don't know, almost way of being anymore. There's a part of me that wants to say that I walk in prayer. And I know that that is such a triggering word to those of us who grew up in the church and then took issue with the organized religion because we see how it's been used as a method of domination and control and still is. It's just a different way of looking at it for me. And I no longer get triggered by my old definition of that word. And I offer that to you guys as well. Okay, so from the fairies oracle, we have card number 15, the journeyman. And I have to be honest with you, whenever I see this card, I always feel I feel me and Lisa, to be honest with you. Because I've always seen Lisa as such a beautiful example of, well, of walking in prayer as well, to be honest. There's a whole different flavor to that. So card number 15, that is a 6 numerologically, which is for me, love, balance, harmony, that kind of feel. The number 6 was my favorite number growing up as a kid, you know, because you could, well, if you rolled double 6 in Monopoly, that was the bomb, wasn't it? So the key words for this card are adventure, independence, polishing of skills, and travel. All of the great ones, the saints, the bodhisattvas, and all of those who are filled by the spiritual light have been on this journey. They went into the wilderness, stepping like fools off of the safe paths into the waiting hands of their gods and goddesses. This is the journey of life, a pilgrimage that begins in ignorant trust, passes through all of the doubts, fears, ups and downs, probably all of the delusions, and certainly all of the confusions. Through it, we learn slowly, painfully, a new kind of trust, a trust in the process, detached from the goal. And again, I cannot unsee the 2 that I've just recorded this morning from Jason. That was very interesting to me. Our young Ogenus journeyman, bless him, is stepping out on the journey of life, positively glowing with enthusiasm. Even his toes sparkle. Bright, handsome, and educated, he has completed his apprenticeship in fairy crafts and magics, but he has not yet achieved true mastery of his trade. To accomplish this, he must leave the protection of his master and step out onto his path as an independent journeyman craftsman. He is testing himself and his knowledge in the world. He hopes to eventually achieve the status of master maker, Right now, he knows a lot of facts, has all the basic skills, but probably knows less than he thinks he does. Now, anybody see any kind of I feel what I just said about how a lot of these concepts have been swirling around up here, and it's been more of an intellectual exercise, but the embodiment of them has not taken place. Wow. It always amazes me when the cards that show themselves echo the words I was just speaking. Wow. He is about to learn about the skills of survival, bartering, persuading, selling, buying wisely, enjoying life, making friends. At least he doesn't need to learn how to iron his own shirts. Ogenus still has lovely, playful, childlike qualities. An Oracle online group member notes that Ogenus is playing, quote, balance the ball on a stick with the moon, and adds that he seems to have no constraints, sets no boundaries on what he can do. And because he is magical and doesn't set such limitations on himself, he is able to walk on air or water or through the hills, all with the moon nicely balanced, both on his stick and in the sky. Our young Ogenus must learn to care for himself. No one is looking over his shoulder to see that he does his work right and eats properly. Ogenus may take chances and even make mistakes sometimes, as we all do. But this, and I just remember how I just said that I will label things as a mistake and then learn that it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. But this is how we learn. He is now confronting and being confronted by the real world. Here, he will discover that excuses don't buy bread and that the quality and integrity of one's work and actions are what counts. But he has been well taught and pretty well knows this already. Don't tell him I told you. But Ogenus sometimes wears a false mustache, hoping that it makes him look more mature. He has romantic dreams of being a great hero, of becoming the supreme master of his craft, and of winning a fairy princess. Some of these dreams will come true, perhaps even all of them. Here we see an innocent being walking trustfully into a situation for which he is not fully prepared and indeed cannot be fully prepared, or for which his preparation is as yet untested by reality. He is innocent of previous practical experience of the path he is now treading or the realm of life into which he is moving. This card could be called Innocence Encounters Reality, which is by no means a bad thing. His fairy godmother is lurking somewhere just out of his sight, as fairy godmothers tend to do. Her expression is both gleeful and worried. Her hair is already whiter than it was before he began, and she is keeping her wand fully charged at all times. Although this is his journey and he must undertake it himself, almost everyone needs and is given a little fairy godmothering from time to time. Good-natured innocence attracts fairy guardians. It attracts helpful beings on all planes and in all worlds. It may also attract those who would abuse that innocence. But as long as our intentions are good, our guardians will offer good guidance. We are blessed and cared for if we allow ourselves to be. And I've come to feel even for myself, because I have the benefit of hindsight being 63 now, to know that those which I may have labeled as evil, horrible beings who caused me suffering and pain, things like physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, all those sorts of things, sexual abuse, rape, um, in my past, were teachers as well. And that I learned from ultimately. And it certainly changed my whole entire perspective and shaped my perceptions of my perspectives all along my life. And I wouldn't change, again, I would not change any of that, because that would mean that I would not be the being I am now. The world is before Ojanus with smiles and teeth. Ojanus has optimism, cheerfulness, magic skills, and a diligent fairy godmother. Ojanus grows within us when we step bravely into the unknown, developing our potentials with hope and optimism and an open heart. Adventure, independence, travel. A long path ahead, we hope. This card speaks to the need to perfect skills in working and living, but it acknowledges having a sound grounding in the basics. Optimistic, innocent, and willing to learn, Ojanus shows us that intuition serves us well, but only if we pay attention to it. And that is a true statement right there. Sometimes we are operating from theory alone, and our knowledge may or may not be well grounded in reality. This card does not necessarily refer exclusively to beginnings, but it can also signify a progression along a path moving into the unknown from the known, which is where I have a huge sense of the next phase for me in some way. And I'm not quite sure what that means exactly. A new phase in an ongoing process. The card may also represent untested concepts or ideas and suggest a need for balance between the intuitive and the rational as one approaches the unknown. Consider where you are going. What are your long-term goals? What are you doing that is helping you move toward them? Well, that's a big order of business, isn't it? When one really gets down to it, and the feeling into that. Okay, so the next one is the alchemy elementals, and what we have here is one we've never had before. Land, tree, sun. Well, you know what? This one speaks to me of just how ancient we, all of us, are. Depending on one's perspective, right? The rings of the tree tell the age. Land, tree, sun. Ooh, on page 88, which is the upward facing infinity symbol, doubled. So for me, the 8 always has represented not just manifestation, but materialization. Very specific way of seeing that. You have exhausted yourself again, my love. Your body and your spirit are asking for replenishment. A nap isn't going to cut it this time. The trees are calling you to them, inviting you to lean your weary back against their sturdy trunks and to allow their wisdom and their healing energy into your being. Well, that's very interesting because I was just feeling recently that I would love to be able to go camping. Candy is not quite ready for that, but my van, I named her Candy. Um, but boy, oh boy, would I love to be able to do that. The busyness of the world has distorted your perspective. You are being called to the trees so that you can peer through their branches and their fluttering leaves to gaze upon the golden sunlight shining through. Allow yourself to rest among the trees, allowing the sunlight to warm your face and to remind you of your own divinity. The simplicity of this meeting will revive your spirit and inspire your own branches to reach for the sun once again. So I just had a flash of myself. We do have a park very close to here, so I guess I really need to go and do that. But there's something, like I said, for me, very ancient in this card. Something ancient wishing to reveal itself in oh, okay. Well, when again, wow. I just saw the progression of how I'm being nudged to record Jason's writings. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so the last card here is from the Rumi deck. It's card number 5. I surge on the uprising wave of love. My life can be summed up in 3 accounts. I was raw, I was cooked, and I was burned. Wow. And because of the way Jason reads his writes, it's all about the flame and again, I cannot the just so you know, when I release the recordings that I did this morning, you will see that the one with the thumbnail that has the word Genesis at the top. Hold on, I'm going to tell you exactly what the name of that was because to me it's very interesting. In the beginning, code created the illusion of separation. Wow. And that's the closest thing I've ever heard to describe exactly the way I feel in regards to what source actually is and how Jason describes it in that reading, in that writing that he did, that I just recorded. I surge up on the uprising wave of love. No gravity can stop me from rising. The moon pulls the tide of life around toward her, and my soul, in oneness with all of life, answers her call. A wave of love consumes me, and upwards I fly, flying through water to greet her shining body. Led by my heart, my wits are addled and my mind becomes a blurry mess. And so I feel instead, feel the truth of her love and the divine reflection she shines back at me from her radiant heart. Greater forces of planetary movements affect us all. And I was I found it quite surprising to learn that And then it made perfect sense to me, though, that the water in our bodies reacts to the moon in the same fashion as the tides upon the earth. And when I realized the truth of that, I don't know, it was very interesting to me because at the time I was learning so much about water and the importance of it, and the fact that it too is a living crystalline life form with memory, and that we are made up, our physical vessels are made up of, or should be made up of, more than 80% water. They're not generally, because every being is walking around on the planet in a dehydrated state, right? That's the other thing I learned. However, when you realize that, it changed everything for me in ways I can't even uh, totally comprehend, to be honest with you. This is a profound and obvious effect. The movements of the cosmos direct us deeply, body and soul. Some movements are perhaps less obvious in form, but are just as great, if not more so, in effect upon our spiritual growth and life experiences. You are going through a cycle, or very soon will be, by which you will be moved by forces greater than your own personal will. This is a karmic period, a time during which the movements of greater planetary bodies will have an impact upon the earth and humanity. I do feel this is underway in a huge way, from one perspective, depending on how you hold it. This is the way of things, greater cycles affecting smaller ones. The smaller ones are not less important, but they do have to bow to the power of the great in oneness with the magnificent unfolding divinity that is life itself. What we always have at our disposal is choice. Choice as to how we respond to these affecting movements and cycles. The effect of this karmic cycle now unfolding in your life is to bring you into sweet surrender and awakening into greater love. What a delicious divine destiny. However, even if we sense at one level that a shift has a positive end in store for us, we can encounter resistance and fear born of the ego in response to the stirring of spiritual uprising. And that, in and of itself, is what I witness within my own self. Now, again, having that intellectual exercise that is what this is, that it is simply a programmed, conditioned response. It is the embodiment of the truth of that I haven't quite mastered, but just knowing that I'm practicing that is very, I don't know, it's very comforting to me in many ways. So I'm going to read that again. However, even if we sense at one level that a shift has a positive end in store for us, we can encounter resistance and fear born of the ego in response to the stirring of spiritual uprising. That's what we witness in many. Those of you who have shared with me, or even online, that you have loved ones in your life that aren't awake. What's happening in most cases is they are running from themselves. And I can tell you, I spent years at death's door running from myself. So I know that that is what I'm witnessing in my loved ones when I see that. And that is what this is referring to here, in my view. Again, your individual mileage will absolutely vary. We may quake in our holy body and wonder if everything is getting out of control and into some disorder. We will be right in our sense of imminent chaos. The disorder, however, is the ego perspective because its range of vision is too small, too limited to comprehend the greater workings of the planetary systems that move life towards love. That is as it should be. The teacup is not made to hold the ocean, just actually a cup of tea. But if we begin to imagine that the cup of tea is preferable to the ocean simply because it is more containable, how much we miss out on. Soul Secret Service, welcome to the channel. I don't recognize your name. We're in it. The only way out is in. So true. In and through, if you ask me. And how terrifying when we are actually thrown into the ocean and moved by it. Its sheer power, its wild force, and its passionate dance with the moon mother might have us fearing that we most certainly will die. Yet the only thing that is dying here and now is your grasp, your attempts at control. Why? Because your heart is more powerful than your fear, and it wants to live in total, trusting surrender to the unfoldment of life's genius. It wants to let life happen to it. What a wise intention that is. Why seek to impose a smaller and less interesting story upon life when the great master storyteller is weaving a fantastic tale of great love, great adventure, and sublime spiritual success? No, it is wiser, wilder, and more fun to surf the great wave of consciousness seeking to overtake you now. And I can attest to that, even in the throes of my conversations with death, and I have had many of those conversations. And in my view, that is what Lisa is having right now as she moves through all of this that she's been moving through, being in and out of the hospital 7 times since January 1 of this year. That is a very real conversation with death, especially when they keep using words like end stage this and final stage that. Those are real conversations that she's having. And I know this from my own personal experience, that from my perspective, that is what she's moving through. You are being given a gift of grace in this oracle, the promise that you won't drown and that you will, in fact, be given a glimpse of your own divinity should you choose to accept whatever will be offered to you. If you've not, and I wish okay, so The very next time I do a live, I will have this information. I will write it down because I need to make sure I'm very clear about this. There was an episode most recently, it's in the most recent season of Doctor Who with the most recent doctor. He's in the Time Hotel, and there is a young woman who is repeating some phrases that we have this very distorted view of what death is. And all we have is what we think we know about death. But we don't really know. I now really feel with all of me because I have died. I don't recall anything from it like so many other NDE experiencers. I didn't bring back any information whatsoever, but I was told that I died on the table, and they had contacted family to let them know that I was gone or leaving, I should say. And so I don't have anything I can point to. However, I have suspected for a very long time that it's not anything about what we think it is, that it is simply a transition to a different existence, because even this existence is not what it appears to be, is my take on that situation at this point. So it is wiser and wilder and more fun to surf the great wave of consciousness seeking to overtake you now. Dive in, beloved, surge with it. You are being given a gift of grace in this oracle, the promise that you won't drown and that you will, in fact, be given a glimpse of your own divinity should you choose to accept whatever will be offered to you. Don't try to swim against the tide of your own life journey. Go with it. The divine is there waiting for you, orchestrating waves upon which you may reach the heavenly shore. Yes, the divine is there waiting for you, waiting on a picnic blanket of fabric of the heavens with a sacred feast of earthly bounty just now being unpacked in your honor. Get yourself into that ocean and ride those waves to your sacred date with the divine right now, sweet beloved. Surfs up. This oracle comes with a message. There are changes happening and they will be out of your control. This is because you are ready for accelerated life change. Rather than paddling, you'll be caught up in a wave and moved farther, faster. Let yourself surge on the energy of what is happening, leading with your heart and just going with whatever unfolds. This will bring you the best fortune and open you up to the divine destiny that is your birthright this time, this lifetime. I do feel like there's something culminating in many ways. And that's the end of the reading, but I also want to share something else with you guys. There's 5 of you here now, and maybe some of you have seen the conversation with Jason that I had a week ago yesterday. By Sunday afternoon, I was shown on my laptop, and I wish with all of me I had done a print screen, but I did not do it. I was shown on my laptop that video had 956 views. And this is proof to me that YouTube is playing some kind of game with my channel. Because the very next day, on my phone in the YouTube Studio app, I was shown that it was only 850 something, 55, 54 views. Now, I would just like to know, how does that work? How do we unview something? I've said on a lot on this channel that I cannot unsee something. Once something has been seen, how does it become unseen? Well, apparently YouTube has figured out how to do that. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to pop over here real quick and see what it is, what they're saying it is at this moment of now, because I find this so interesting. And I know with all of me that part of it is being done. It is now at 875 views. So it's still not back to where it was originally. So is that 875? Now, keep in mind, I did not share that video around, but Jason himself put our conversation into the Ancient Order of Hermetics Facebook page where his writings are located. There are very close to 700,000 people in that group. So my question now becomes, is there 875 views on top of the 955? Or did they simply remove 100 views? And why? Why are we doing this, YouTube? Why? I mean, I already know that for whatever their reasoning, they got it in for me. This is my third channel. And it's not like I'm some wildly popular with millions of viewers and making money and all that kind of stuff, because there's less than 300 subscribers on this channel. Even at the most popular on Conscious Conversation Central, I only had 2,000 subscribers when they took that channel down. I had over 1,500 videos, conversations, and only one of those videos had exceeded 500 views. In all that time. So I'm not quite clear how any of this works, but I find it very interesting. And I would love to hear from some of you what you think is going on and why that is. I have my own suspicions that it has something to do with a frequency that I emit. I already know that I emit a frequency of transparency. Beings find it very hard to be in my presence, especially those who are trying to run and hide from themselves. They find it very, very difficult to be in my presence. The words intimidating has been used more than I can't even tell you, and I don't understand that at all. But hey, okay, whatever. I cannot help if somebody is running from themselves, because the truth of it is, I'm not running from me. I want to see all of me, and I want to see all of my programming and conditioning. And I am not afraid to have someone say, hey, what you got going on over there? Because I'm willing to look. I'm willing to turn and face and embrace whatever it is. Because I ran for a long time so hard I almost ran myself right off this planet physically. And so Soul Secret Service, that I think it's just the robot YouTube algorithm that is running. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It's not going to be exact. From my experience, it's not best to polarize with it. That or multiple dimensions intersecting. Well, now that could be too. I hadn't thought about that part. But I don't know. I found it very interesting that it was 900 and some. And then the very next day, and it went down twice. It went from 900 and some to the 860 or yeah, 865 and then down to 845. I'm like, wow, okay. So that could, you know what, that could explain it because actually has been a lot happening with timelines and things like that. So you could be really on to something there. Soul Secret Service. I really like your name, by the way. Welcome to the channel. Well, that's it for me, guys. And just to be really clear, I have always viewed oracle or tarot readings as a way of, again, focus and attention for me to focus my attention inward, not as a divination tool or anything like that. But for me, it's always been a way for me to hear my inner voice. And when I've done my intuitive hangout sessions where I pull a card for you, again, it was a way to direct me in here so that I could hear what and it was very uncanny. And maybe we'll do that again. It's happening to many other people I follow as well. All the best. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I am aware that this has happened for others as well. I'm not the only one. I I don't know. I find it comical. I'm a 63-year-old grandma who cares what I'm saying. I mean, come on, let's be real. I'm not a truther. I'm not a spiritual guru. I ain't trying to sell anybody anything. This has been all about me. Ask anybody who has followed me for any amount of time. I've never made it a secret. This is about my own inner growth. And if somebody else gets something out of it, great. But what this actually is, I'm looking at myself on this Zoom right here. This is the 12-year-old me talking to 12-year-old me, if you will. It's just you all are bearing witness. And I rather enjoy that. Okay, I'm a little weird. Who cares? There's there's weirder things than that in this world. So I love you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful to you. Generally, I have found that if you found your way here, there's a reason. And I know for myself, if I move towards that which I am drawn to, I'm always shown eventually, maybe not right away, but eventually I'm shown, oh, okay, that's why. And so until we meet again, be well, my friends.